All right, let's talk tactics. In the world of elite football, so many teams build their entire game around one single idea, space. But here's the thing, how they actually go about controlling and using that space, well, it can be wildly different from team to team. So today we're going to dive into the 4 big positionist archetypes that really define modern coaching.
And look, the stakes here are huge. As the source material puts it, getting the right positionist archetype wrong is a common trap for coaches. I mean, think about it. If you choose a system that just doesn't click with your players or your own philosophy, you're pretty much setting yourself up for failure from day one.
So, with all these different styles, what's the one thing they all have in common? It's simple, really. It all comes down to space. For every single one of these systems, space is the fundamental organizing principle. Players have their zones, their designated areas, and the team's entire shape is built around how they occupy that space. It's like a game of tactical geography.
Okay, let's kick things off with 2 archetypes where the coach is king. These are the systems built on strict hierarchy, on top-down control, where the gaffer's word is law. We're talking about the architect versus the commander.
So first up, we have the archetype the source calls NE, but we're going to call it the architect system. The name says it all, right? This is the most rigidly designed, most meticulously planned out approach to the game. It's like the coach draws up a perfect blueprint, and the team's job is to build it brick by brick, exactly to specification.
So what does that actually look like on the pitch? Well, you've got an incredibly rigid structure that is completely driven by the coach. It demands absolute precision from the players. It's a system where players are almost like chess pieces, moved into position by the manager's grand plan, which leads to almost no deviation from that planned formation.
And get this, we can actually see this in the numbers. There's a metric called hybridization deviation, or HD for short. It basically measures how far players tend to wander from their assigned positions. While teams like Getafe and Chelsea registered an average of just 13.1 meters, that's one of the lowest of all 96 teams studied. It just proves that their players stick to the script with incredible discipline.
Okay, so from the architect, let's move to our next hierarchical system, labeled EN, the commander's press. Now, this takes the rigid structure of the architect and then injects a massive dose of pure, unadulterated aggression.
The key features here really tell the whole story. You've got a defensive line that is pushed ridiculously high up the field. The team presses with just maximum intensity. But it's not mindless running. It's smart. The press is triggered by specific zones, which, you can imagine, puts a huge mental strain or cognitive load on the players to recognize those triggers and react in a split second.
I mean, just look at these numbers. It's wild. Teams like PSG and Bayern hold defensive lines at an average of 36, almost 38 meters upfield. When you compare that to a more typical team's average, you really see how aggressive and frankly how brave this system is. They are relentlessly squeezing the life out of the opposition.
So let's put them side by side, because the difference is so crucial. With the architect, the coach is the designer, obsessed with precision and control. But for the commander, the coach is more of an authority figure, demanding maximum pressure and aggression. And that philosophical shift explains everything, especially why the mental load on players skyrockets from moderate to the absolute highest in the commander system.
All right, let's completely shift gears. We've seen the top-down, coach-is-king systems, but what happens when you give the players more power? Now the focus moves from pure instruction to harnessing the collective brain power of the players on the pitch. This is the collective versus the swarm.
First up, the ES archetype, or the geometric collective. Now you'll probably recognize this one. Think of classic Barcelona. The coach still sets the stage. They design the geometric framework, the triangles, the use of half spaces, but it's the players who bring it all to life with their shared understanding and their on-the-fly creativity.
So even though the team is operating inside this very clear positional structure, everything they do is based on that collective intelligence. Decision-making isn't just on one player, it's shared across the team. And that's where that famous, beautiful fluidity comes from. It's organized, sure, but it feels so intuitive because the players are basically solving puzzles together in real time.
And that brings us to our final archetype, SE, the organized swarm. This system is a fascinating blend of disciplined spatial structure and a kind of furious collective energy, especially when the team doesn't have the ball. And if you want the perfect mental picture for this, just think of Diego Simeone's Atletico Madrid. They defend in a super organized block, right? Everyone knows their spatial assignments. But the press, it isn't triggered by just one guy. It's like a switch flips for the entire team at once. And when that trigger happens, the whole team just swarms. It's organized chaos. And because everyone's in it together, the mental load on any one player is actually lower.
Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds great. A little theoretical, right? Just a bunch of fancy names. But here's the amazing part. We can actually measure these styles. The data really doesn't lie, and it lets us see these archetypes in action with cold, hard numbers.
So let's quickly recap our two key metrics. First, hybridization deviation, or HD. That's just a fancy way of asking, how much do your players wander from their assigned spot? A low number means high discipline. Then there's codebook cognitive load, or CCL. Think of this as, how much stuff does the coach make the players think about at once? A high CCL means a huge mental workout.
And boom, this table just brings it all together beautifully. Look at Getafe, our architect team, an incredibly low HD. Their players just do not stray. Then you have Bayern, the commander, with their cognitive load maxed out at 1.0. You just know their players' brains are fried after 90 minutes. And the really key thing? Look how far below the league average HD of over 20 meters they both are. That right there is the signature of a true positionist team.
So, why does any of this matter? What's the so what here? Well, for any coaches or analysts listening, this isn't just theory. This is a practical, honest-to-goodness playbook for building a team's entire identity. And it really boils down to 3 actionable steps. First, choose your identity. Figure out which archetype fits your personality as a coach. Are you about control, intensity, trust, or collective energy? Second, audit your team's discipline. Use that HD metric. If your team's average deviation is over 20 meters, you just aren't a positionist team. And finally, be realistic. You have to match the complexity of your tactics to what your players can actually handle.
And that brings us to the final question, the one I really want to leave you with. Think about the team you support, or maybe the team you coach. When you watch them play, which of these 4 archetypes do you see? Are they an architect, a commander, a collective, or a swarm? Because understanding the answer to that, well, that's the first step to understanding everything else they do on the pitch.